Do you want to build headless Umbraco sites fast? With a step-by-step guided installation, an automatic code generation, and even an assistant to help you with best practice? Then let's try XPEDITE. XPEDITE is easy to install. All it takes is one command. You can generate this command from the package script writer created by Paul Seal. And the first thing it will do is it will download the Umbraco templates. It will then create a new project based on these templates called CMS. You will set some values for the unattended install. You will add the XPEDITE starter kit to your CMS project, and then at the end you can run that project and the website will be available for you to use. And here we can see that localhost 44343 has been created, and this is the URL to our new Umbraco instance with XPEDITE installed. Click Get Started. This will take you to the Umbraco login page, and once you have filled in your credentials, you will be redirected straight to the home page of XPEDITE. Configuring XPEDITE is also simple, but you do have to do some work. But just follow the steps. As you can see, we've loaded XPEDITE here, and on the second half of the screen I've got a command window, and I've just opened code so that we can see our program files of the CMS. Now the first instruction is to install the delivery API. This is just a simple copy and paste. That's all you need to do in that file. Second, we need to enable the delivery API in app-settings.json. Again, copy and paste here, but you will need to update some values if you want to secure this API with a key. Now we're going to create the Next.js app. I'm going to go up one level, so we're outside of the CMS project we created, and run the command. You can use the values described here, or you can change them if you know what you're doing. And here we go. We have a Next.js app installed. So what we need to do is tell XPEDITE where this Next.js app lives. This can be done in the development transform of your app settings file, as this will change per developer. You can find the path to your new Next.js app in the command window that you just used. Paste that in, and what you will need to do is replace all the backslashes with double backslashes to make sure that they are escaped. Now we've made those changes, so we can restart Umbraco to ensure that these get picked up, and then the instructions will change. I just used the .NET run command for this. Right then, back to Umbraco. We can now see that we're on to step 5. It's automatically picked that up, and this is to do with installing the unit test libraries that we're going to use. First things first, cd into your www project, so this is the Next.js one, and copy the command in. After that, we have to init jest. This will create a file with some settings. Again, if you don't know what you're doing, or if you haven't done this too many times, you can just follow the defaults that I've provided on the left-hand side. We then have to install a dev dependency of the jest types. This just makes life easier when you're coding. And then we overwrite the standard jest config with a Next.js version. So if you've changed some of the settings from an earlier stage, then these will get overwritten as part of this, so make sure you double check. Save that. XPEDITE helps you out a bit here. You can add the M file that is required with just a single button click. And you can see it gets created here with the link to your Umbraco instance. And again, one single button click, and that will create all the files that you're going to need. Let's have a look at the structure of the project that is created. Some files are automatically installed by XPEDITE. First things first, in the app directory, you can see a layout.tsx file. This is the standard base file for a Next.js app. And then, for instance, we can look at the page.tsx. This will be the root of the website. And we can see that we have a couple of interesting items here. We have get content item async, and we have the template renderer. So what are those? They are both two things that come with XPEDITE. Get all content async just uses the delivery API to get everything we need. And then if we go back to the template renderer, this is how XPEDITE works out which template to show. We map all of our templates in this file here, and then when a page gets loaded, we use the document type of that page to find the template. In this slug folder, we can find another page.tsx, and this is hit for all other routes. We will use the route in this get content item async function call. We can also use this function to get a Next.js compatible slug for the Umbraco route. Let's imagine that we're on one of these pages. We can go to the page template, and what you'll see here is some React code to render the components that we want on this page. We can then move on to our second XPEDITE concept of partials. Partials allow us to reuse code between different templates. So here we see we have a page heading partial, which simply just puts the title of the page there, and page blocks, which renders all of the blocks within a block list on the page. We also have this Umbraco properties JSON, which is just a helper, shows the entire JSON structure that is passed through to this page. You won't show this on the real website. And finally on to blocks. So blocks are parts of the block list that you can set in Umbraco. So these are the components that allow the content editors to define which order and which items they want shown. What we're going to look at here is Umbraco images and Umbraco links, which are in the components folder, and the components folder is used for reusable React components. Umbraco images and Umbraco links are just two inbuilt to Expedite functions that allow us to do some common Umbraco functionality. So here we are. Let's get this running. Simple as npm run dev. This will load up a web server and we will be able to test our website. So this is how an Expedite site looks out of the box. Nothing particularly fancy. We can see that templates, partials and blocks are nicely labelled in different colours so that we can easily distinguish what is what. You will take out these styles once you've completed your component. As you can see, we've cycled between a couple of pages. And here is the output JSON, very useful for debugging if you're not sure why something hasn't worked. So let's generate a template. As I said before, a template defines what we want to render on a page, and we limit these to a specific document type. So we've clicked on templates, and we now need to go and find our page. We're going to use the documentation page for this example. What we can see here is that some code has been auto-generated already, and you can choose to select which fields you want to include in this auto-generated output. It's not just the TSX page which is created, but also an example CSS file and also some example tests. Now you need to fill these in with your actual implementation, but they're all linked together and the fields that are used are in there. As we can see, what I've just done is I've created a blueprint for this page with just a single button click, and it can take you directly to here. Another thing that we recommend in Expedite sites is to create documentation pages for each different type of content that you have. This means that when you hand it over to content editors, they have examples of how a page can be used, so they can make the decisions easier. Now we want to get this into our code base. One thing that we can do is we could press the download button. This gets a zip file. You can go and manually make the changes you want, but much easier is to just press the apply to code base button, and this will directly go into the folder that you've configured. So let's have a look under templates. We can now see that we've got a documentation page with all the files that we could see in the back end of Umbraco. Now there's a little bit of manual work you need to do. Copy this from this bottom line, and we need to make sure that this is in the templates.ts file. This is the map which tells Expedite how to map between document types and the React components. Let's create a partial. As we said before, these are used to reduce code duplication. Just click on the Create Partial button. Now partials are the simplest, but you can also use any document type or element type that you want. So good practice is to use a composition for partials, as these can be shared between pages. As we see, automatically generated the code as you would expect. It's created the page title. But because we're using a base template or a composition, it's actually useful to specify the component name. We want this to be a header, so we've given it the header name. That's changed the React component and its related props. And one other thing that we can do is we can include generic page data. So this is useful if you want to get information about the page that this partial has been put onto. Let's apply this to the code base, and then we'll go and find this in our Next.js app. Here we go. has been added. We can see here it's got its page title. Let's put it in the span. We will come back to this later and update it. But first things first, let's go to our documentation page and use this partial. We'll find where we want to add it and simply put in the name of the component. We need to pass in the props, and we can just take these directly from the template. Now finally, let's create a block. This is where things really get fun for our content editors. So I've gone to the blocks page, and now I can choose not only an element type, but I can also put in a settings type. So we're creating a heading block here, and we can see that both of these are passed in as props using the content and the setting variable names, with the props kind of underneath it. One useful thing that XPEDITE allows you to do is, if you haven't created the data type settings for these yet, press one button and it will add it to all your block lists. So we've created this block very quickly. The code has been auto-generated, it's gone into our solution, it's been added to our block lists, and now all we need to do is one manual step, again updating one of our maps so that we can match document types, well in this case element types, to our React components. We don't want to display our heading level, we want to just use this as the tag. So what we can do is we can take this string property that has come in, we can uppercase a variable name, which means that React will work with it as a tag. We can default it to h1, and then we can use this heading tag instead of the span. Let's delete the old value, and that's our block complete. So our code's been generated, we've made a few tweaks manually, now we just need to fill in the content in Umbraco and test the site. So let's go to our documentation page that we've created. We can add in a title, and let's add one of our new heading blocks. Now I've said it's going to be an H2, so I think it's probably right that we go back to our settings and actually make sure that this is set as an H2. So there we go, update that, we'll save and publish that again. And what we can do is we can go to our Next.js app. We've got this link here, so we know the path or the slug that we need to go to. And here we go. It's been created, and we can see that the heading block is an H2. Now, because this is in the block list, content editors can go and add as many as they want, so why not add an H3 underneath it? Let's change the settings of this second heading to an H3, update that, save and publish, go back to our page, and there you go, easy as. Head on over to NuGet, search for expedite.starterkit and give it a go for yourself.